Okay, so we got the DTCC data repository, not DDR, Dance Dance Revolution, but DTCC data repository. Changes effective September 21st, supposedly. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the changes are. DDR has amended various sections of the DDR rulebook to include references to security-based swaps when applicable. Now, if you remember, CFTC just came out and said that basically going to sweep under the rug for the next 2 years as far as the UMR reporting requirements for swaps. Yippee. Effective date September 21st. Change number 3 here. DDR has amended Rule 1.1 to clarify that use of DDR systems and services is contingent on an entity being onboarded as a DDR user. Clarify users must keep information provided to DDR current. And number 3, direct users to new Rule 3.4 for information related to a user's access to data and limitations thereto. Change 4, they have amended Rule 1.3 to remove superfluous language. Number 5, they have amended Rule 1.4 to create a new Rule 1.4.1, which includes information previously set out in Rule 1.4. They're renumbering existing Rule 1.4.1 as Rule 1.4.2. They are removing information related to user data access from new Rule 1.4.1 as information related to user access to data has been consolidated in new Rule 3.4. So basically just moving a lot of rules around in this section here. They're also modifying renumbered Rule 1.4.2 to clarify that records will be in an electronic format that is non-rewritable and non-erasable throughout the life of a swap or security-based swap and for 5 years following its termination. And B, describe maintenance of records in the event DDR winds down its trade repository operation. Typo, you fucks. Winds down its trade repository operations, you idiots. Just kidding. All right. DDR has amended Rule 2.2 to clarify that DDR welcomes suggestions from market participants of proposed or alternative candidates to serve on the DDR board. Describe the processes to make such suggestions, and describe the composition of DDR officers and how they are selected and ratified. Well, that's good. The fact that you weren't disclosing that information before is highly suspicious. DDR has amended Rule 2.3 to replace references to specific statutory or regulatory authority with a reference to the defined terms, applicable regulations, or applicable law. That doesn't sound good. And describe the process by which CCO compensation is recommended and approved, recommended by the DDR senior officer and approved by the board. Well, thanks for telling us, douchebags. DDR has amended Rule 2.4 to replace references to specific regulations with references to the defined term, applicable regulation. 2, replace references to specific regulators with references to the defined term, designated regulators. And number 3, remove language related to data access by parties authorized by law, as information related to this topic has been consolidated in renumbered Rule 6.4. Now we're getting into changes I can understand. I started to skip a few because they're really jargony and just a lot of word salad. So this rule here, or this change here, DDR has amended Rule 3 to amend Rule 3.1 to clarify that only users have the ability to submit data to DDR. Number 2, amend Rule 3.3.1 to remove references to immediate dissemination of public price information to account for time delays required by applicable law. That doesn't sound good. Number 3, renumber existing Rule 3.3.4 as Rule 3.4, amend renumbered Rule 3.4 to consolidate information related to user access to data and corrections in one location. And B, clarify that the type of report a user receives is dictated by the user's role as an indicated on the applicable trade. For example, submission report available to users indicated on the trade message as submitter, submitted for party or execution agent. And 5, create a new Rule 3.5 to number 1, consolidate information related to DDR system validations. And B, clarify that number 1, DDR may reject submissions that fail to meet the DDR validations. And 2, that a rejected submission is deemed not to have been submitted for reporting purposes in the applicable jurisdiction. So if a rejected submission is rejected, they are going to not let the applicable jurisdiction in charge know that it was rejected for reporting purposes. That sounds good. Okay, so DDR has amended Rule 4.4 to describe the current unique product identifiers, or UPI, DDR accepts for swaps and or security-based swaps. Clarify that DDR will rely on the referenced classification systems until such time as an internationally recognized standard setting system is recognized by the designated regulator. Okay, and specify the information DDR requires to identify data and calculate price for SEC reporting. DDR has amended Rule 6 to delete existing Rule 6.1 as the information has been moved to Rule 5. Renumber existing Rule 6.2 through 6.5 to reflect the deletion of existing 6.1. Amend renumbered 6.1 to remove references to the U.S. Department of Justice, as inclusion in this rule is out of place and without practical effect. Sick. So now the U.S. Department of Justice is not included in the reference to Rule 6.1. That's got to be good. Amend renumbered Rule 6.2 to delete information related to data access, as this topic is addressed elsewhere. Amend renumbered Rule 6.3 to remove specific reference to a confidentiality agreement with terms equivalent to DDR's privacy procedures, as the title and terms of the specific document may vary. Amend renumbered Rule 6.4 to include information related to a denial of a request for access to data made pursuant to Rule 6. And lastly, delete Rule 6.6 as the information privacy policy of DDR has been removed as an appendix to the rulebook, which I will show you here in a minute. More changes. DDR has amended Rule 11.1 to clarify the types of conflict of interest that are escalated to the DDR Chief Compliance Officer, those involving the officer's employees, consultants, and temporary employees of DDR, and provide additional detail related to the resolution of conflicts of interest. Well, that's good. DDR has amended Rule 11.4 to clarify that a director's conflict of interest may, in appropriate circumstances, require the director's recusal from discussion or voting. Well, no shit. DDR has amended Rule 12 to modify the defined term market participant to mean market participant as defined by SEC regulations. That's probably a good thing when used in the context of SEC reporting. You'll probably want it to match the SEC regulations if you're reporting to the SEC. More changes. DDR has amended DDR Operating Procedures Section 3 to clarify that upon termination, submissions by users indicating a terminated user as the reporting counterparty may be permitted, but direct submissions by a terminated user will not be, and records submitted by a terminating user will not be communicated as open to the applicable regulator. Makes no sense. DDR has amended DDR Operating Procedures Section 8B to 1. Remove references to disclosure to counterparties in the context of third-party submitter submissions, as such language is unnecessary because disclosure to the counterparties is contemplated in the preceding language. And number 2, clarify that disclosure may be required under applicable law. Like, the fact that none of this shit was clarified before is hilarious. DDR has amended sections IV, V, and VII of the Swap Data Repository Appendix to the DDR operating procedures to replace references to specific regulations with references to the defined term applicable law. DDR has amended Section 1 of the Canadian Repository Appendix to the DDR operating procedures to clarify that DDR allows for the confirmation of accuracy of swap data, but does not independently verify such data. Very nice. So there's a section here that says each of the company and each user hereby wow. I'm just going to skip that word. I can't say it right now. Irrevocably, there we go, waives any right that it may have to trial by jury in any action, proceeding, or counterclaim arising out of or relating to these operating procedures. The company shall not be responsible for a user's failure to properly and accurately report in a timely fashion its positions in eligible derivative transactions through submission of SDR records. A user's failure to timely correct errors in SDR records, or any failure by a third-party submitter to properly and accurately report in a timely fashion data to be submitted in the SDR records, in any such case in accordance with this appendix and the operating procedures or applicable publications, or for any consequences thereof, legal, regulatory, or otherwise. Except as required by applicable law or as provided in the operating procedures, the company will not be responsible for confirming or verifying any such information and will base public dissemination and reports solely on the information provided by or on behalf of users. So the DTCC is basically saying it's all up to the participants. We're not responsible for confirming or verifying any info despite us providing the swap depository. This shit's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Whatever. Without limiting any other provision of the operating procedures and applicable publications, each user consents to the preparation and disclosure of reports with respect to its SDR records as set forth in this appendix and other access to its SDR records by a designated regulator. Each user agrees that the company shall not be responsible for any use or non-use of a report or other information by a designated regulator or any person to which a designated regulator may disclose such report or other info, or any consequences thereof. The company governance arrangements are intended to be transparent to support, among other things, the objectives of the U.S. federal government pursuant to applicable law. We'll see about that. So it sounds to me like a lot of ass covering going on here by the DTCC. If someone reports a, non-verified shit swap transaction that causes problems, DTCC bears no responsibility, and it will be rejected and not disclosed to the SEC, basically. Now, the appendix they were talking about down here that they removed, information safeguarding, they scrapped. Changes to this privacy policy, scrapped. Contact information, scrapped. Law enforcement, regulatory, and judicial requests, scrapped. Third-party service providers, scrapped. Authorized disclosure, scrapped. No, non-disclosure of DDR confidential information, and then limited use of DDR confidential information. Basically, their entire privacy policy has been removed. So I don't know what the purpose of that is. If it's to hold the fire to the participants and basically say, hey, look, you're on your own. It's dog eat dog. Not sure. So let's see here. Okay, so let's look at the certain legal matters current one and then the difference between this one. Actually, the difference is right here. So they removed, so the sentence before read like this. The company shall not be responsible for a user's failure to properly and accurately report in a timely fashion its positions in eligible derivative transactions through submission of records. A user's failure to timely comply with verification procedures with respect thereto, or any failure by a third-party submitter. That's how it read before. Now it says, the company shall not be responsible for a user's failure to properly and accurately report in a timely fashion its positions in eligible derivatives transactions through submission of records. The user's failure to timely correct errors in records, or any failure by a third-party submitter to properly and accurately report in a timely fashion data to be submitted in records. So I don't know if what they're saying is instead of complying with verification procedures, now you have to correct the errors. What if the errors are corrected, or what if that's how they are? Are they going to correct them in a way that makes that pass through their procedures? That's what it sounds like, but we'll have to see. What else did they changed? Anything? Okay, so right here, let's see, big ass paragraph here. Allow for confirmation of accuracy of. Okay, so they took out verify, and now they're putting in allow for confirmation of accuracy of. Interesting. Yeah, so here it is again. Certain legal matters, yeah, comply. It's now corrected SDR errors. Oh, they added this. Okay, let's go back here. Pursuant to applicable law, and this says pursuant to, yeah, applicable law. Okay, cool. So it was section 21F2. Let's see what else. So yeah, instead of Part 43 and Part 49.15 of the CFTC rules in the case of eligible derivative transactions that are swaps or by SEC regulation, in the case of eligible derivative transactions that are security-based swaps. That was all removed and replaced by applicable law. The company will also provide access to SDR records to the United States Department of Justice as may be required by applicable law. They're trying to be vague. The company may establish one or more procedures through which users, they took out will be required to, and put in can verify the accuracy of records maintained by the company, as such users may be obligated to do under applicable law. Badass. They removed trusted source procedure. The eligible transactions, by the way, are going to be your credit derivatives, equity derivatives, your interest rate derivatives, foreign exchange derivatives, which is your FX, the one that everyone mistakes for NFT, GME, the FX, and other commodity derivatives. Without limiting the foregoing, the SDR will, following its registration as a swap data repository under the CEA and or security-based swap data repository under the Exchange Act as applicable. And then they didn't even have this. They added this in, except where an exemption applies. That was not there before. They added that in. And then they added in U.S. swap data repository. So maybe they're taking out foreign entities here. But yeah, I don't know if I like this. We'll have to wait and see. It sounds like a bunch of bull crap that they're trying to, get away from responsibility. Maybe they're trying to give the bag to some of their members. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Just giving you all that I do know so far. As far as the grand scope and the purpose behind this, there's not really one outlined, other than some conflicts of interest and to shy away from responsibility and to remove their entire privacy policy and then waive trial to jury if any situation arises. So there you have it. Last video for me to... Oh, wait, no, I lied. There's the calculator video later. Talk to y'all later.